So this is a very important book that Srila Prabhupada actually, very initially in the starting of the movement, this fun movement of the book. Okay, so he has not explained this shloka. So this shloka is basically saying that the Krishna's pastimes, the pastimes of Krishna is actually actually quenches the thirst of even the Paramahansa, quenches the thirst of even those who are living nothing but an animal. It is mentioned like that. Who other than an animal can not hear these pastimes of Krishna? So that's a very nice sloka which comes in the very early part of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the initial chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the Western countries, when someone sees the cover of a book like Krishna, he immediately asks, who is Krishna? Who is the girl with Krishna? The immediate answer is that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is that? Because he conforms in exact detail to descriptions of the Supreme Being, the Godhead. In other words, Krishna is the Godhead because he is all attractive. Outside the principle of all attraction, there is no meaning to the word Godhead. How is it one can be all attractive? First of all, if one is very wealthy, if he has some great riches, he becomes attractive to the people in general. Similarly, if someone is very powerful, he also becomes attractive. And if someone is very famous, he also becomes attractive. And if someone is very beautiful or wise or unattached to all kinds of possessions, he also becomes attractive. So from practical experience, we can observe that one is attractive due to wealth, power, fame, beauty, wisdom and renunciation. One who is in possession of all six of these opulences, at the same time, who possesses them to an unlimited degree, is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These opulences of the Godhead are delineated by Parashara Muni, a great Vedic authority. We have seen many rich persons, many powerful persons, many famous persons, many beautiful persons, many learned and scholarly persons, and persons in the renounced order of life unattached to material possessions. But we have never seen any one person who is unlimitedly and simultaneously wealthy, powerful, famous, beautiful, wise and unattached like Krishna in the history of humanity. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a historical person who appeared in the earth 5000 years ago. He stayed on this earth for 125 years and played exactly like a human being, but his activities were unparalleled. From the very moment of his appearance to the moment of his disappearance, every one of his activities is unparalleled in the history of the world. And therefore, anyone who knows what we mean by Godhead will accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No one is equal to the Godhead, and no one is greater than him. That is the import of the familiar saying, God is great. There are various classes of men in the world who speak of God in different ways, but according to the Vedic literatures and according to the great acharyas, the authorized persons versed in the knowledge of God in all ages like acharyas Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Lord Chaitanya, and all their followers by disciplic succession, all unanimously agree that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As far as we, the followers of Vedic civilization, are concerned, we accept the Vedic history of the whole universe, which consists of different planetary systems called Swargalokas, or the higher planetary systems Martyalokas, or the intermediary planetary systems and Patala planetary system and Patala Lokas, or the lower planetary system. The modern historians of this earth cannot supply historical evidences of events that occurred before 5000 years ago, and the anthropologists say that 40,000 years ago Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because evolution had not reached that point. But the Vedic histories, the Puranas and Mahabharata relate human histories which existed millions and billions of years into the past. So this is actually true. At that time when Prabhupada was writing the book, they were saying that there were no Homo sapiens, that is the first humans, before 40,000 years ago. But now if you see science, then they are saying that 2 million years ago, that the first man walked on Earth 2 million years ago. They found bones and everything. So they are pushing the date behind, But it goes much long back. Because since the earth has begun, From that time, humans are always there on this earth. But they are just based on evolution theory of Darwin. They only believe like what they can get from the earth by digging and everything. They get bones. Okay, they do the carbon dating and then say that okay, humans existed 2 million years ago. Before that, no humans. But actually, humans have been there all the time. For example, from these literatures, we are given the histories of Krishna's appearances and disappearances millions and billions of years ago. Because there are Chaturyuga, 4 Yuga cycles. Also many pastimes happen in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. So those are like lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of years. And it's a cycle also. It keeps on going. And then we have a record of it in the Puranas. For example, from these literatures, we are given the histories of Krishna's appearances and disappearances millions and billions of years ago. In the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that both he and Arjuna had many births before and that he, Krishna, could remember all of them and that Arjuna could not. This illustrates the difference between the knowledge of Krishna and that of Arjuna. Arjuna might have been a very great warrior, a well-cultured member of the Kuru dynasty, but after all, he was an ordinary human being, whereas Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the possessor of unlimited knowledge. Because he possesses unlimited knowledge, Krishna has a memory that is boundless. Krishna's knowledge is so perfect that he remembers all the incidences of his appearances some millions and billions of years in the past. But Arjuna's memory and knowledge are limited by time and space, for he is an ordinary human being. In the 4th chapter, Krishna states that he can remember instructions. The lessons of the Bhagavad Gita some millions of years ago to the sun god Vivaswan. Nowadays, it is the fashion of the atheistic class of men to try to become God by following some mystic process. Generally, the atheists claim to be God by dint of their imagination or their meditational prowess. Krishna is not that kind of God. He does not become God by manufacturing some mystic process of meditation, nor does he become God by undergoing the severe austerities of the mystic yogic exercises. Properly speaking, he never becomes God because he is the God-eater in all circumstances. Within the prison of his maternal uncle Kamsa, where his father and mother were confined, Krishna appeared outside his mother's body as the four-handed Vishnu Narayana. Then he turned himself into a baby and told his father to carry him to the house of Nanda Maharaja and his wife Yashoda. When Krishna was just a small baby, the gigantic demoness Putana attempted to kill him, but when he sucked her breast, he pulled out her life. That is the difference between the real Godhead and a God manufactured in the mystic factory. Krishna had no chance to practice the mystic yoga process. Yet he manifested himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead at every step, from infancy to childhood, from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to young manhood. In this book, Krishna, all of his activities as human being are described. Although Krishna plays like a human being, he always maintains his identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Any questions till now? It's pretty clear, right? Since Krishna is all attractive, one should know that all his desires should be focused on Krishna. One should know that all his desires should be focused on Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the individual person is the proprietor of or master of the body. But Krishna, who is the super soul present in everyone's heart, is the supreme proprietor and supreme master of each and every individual body. As such, we concentrate our loving propensities upon Krishna only. Then immediately universal love, unity and tranquility will be automatically realized. When one waters the root of a tree, he automatically waters the branches, twigs, leaves and flowers. When one supplies food to the stomach through the mouth, he satisfies all the various parts of the body. So it is as simple as that. So he says Krishna is actually there in everyone's heart as Paramatma, he is mentioning. So it is not that he is there and we are separate. So in every Jiva soul there is also Paramatma also. He is saying Supreme Proprietor because and therefore he is the Supreme Proprietor and Supreme Master of each and every living individual body. Not only each and every individual body, but he exists in each and every atom as Paramatma. So he is the Supreme Proprietor in that way. But he, as it is stated in the Upanishads, he is just the observer. because Jiva has free will. Each and every soul has the free will to act as he wants, basically. But always the Jiva can turn towards the Supreme Personality for guidance. So whenever the Jiva turns towards the Paramatma for guidance, then the Paramatma, as the Chaitya Guru, instructs him, starts instructing him and giving him directions. When the Jiva begins to listen. Until that time, Jiva is just engaged in his own activities, material activities, and the Paramatma is just a Upadrishta Anumantacha. In Bhagavad Gita, it's Upadrishta Anumantacha. Upadrishta means he is just observing. Anumanta means he is sanctioner. He is sanctioning the activities of the Jiva. Jiva wants to do something, he sanctions it. And then he observes what he does. So it's Upadrishta Anumantacha. So that is the nature of Paramatma in the body of each individual soul. So finally, when the Jiva turns to Paramatma, then the real spiritual progress begins from there. The art of focusing one's attention on the Supreme and giving one's love to Him is called Krishna consciousness. So Krishna consciousness is not some very, very complicated philosophy. Prabhupada says it is just the art of loving God, nothing more than that. But we need the philosophy also, because we are in such a state that unless things make sense to our intelligence, we don't follow. Because we are like rational beings. We are not just animals who are led. We are rational beings. So there has to be some philosophy that can convince you. And then that philosophy convinces us, then it becomes very easy for us to accept it. And once we accept it, it's easy for us to adopt the practices. That is the just art of loving Krishna. So Krishna consciousness can be described in those three words, the art of loving Krishna. But all the details follow. It has to be substantiated by Sadhu Sangha and Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Anathanivritti, everything comes. So it has to be substantiated by everything else. But otherwise, it is simple to understand. It's the art of loving Krishna. The art of focusing one's attention on the Supreme and giving one's love to Him is called Krishna consciousness. We have inaugurated the Krishna consciousness movement so that everyone can satisfy his propensity for loving others simply by directing his love towards Krishna. And what is the root? The whole world is very much anxious to satisfy the dormant propensity of love for others, but the inventions of various methods like socialism, communism, altruism, humanitarianism, nationalism, and whatever else may be manufactured for the peace and prosperity of the world are all useless and frustrating because of our gross ignorance of the art of loving Krishna. Because you see, all the other isms actually are just watering the parts of the body, but not the root of the body. Basically, it boils down to that only. Like only if you don't water the root of the plant, of the tree, all the parts of the plants don't get nourished. Only when you water the root of the plant, then all the parts of the plant gets nourished. But all these isms are, for example, socialism and capitalism, communism are all against each other. Communism and capitalism don't go with each other. They are always antagonistic. So there are so many isms. Nationalism is there. Nationalism is anti-globalism. Nationalism is one philosophy, globalism is another philosophy. They are both antagonistic. So there are so many isms provided, but each and every ism just provide for a certain section of society, but it does not provide for the whole humanity. So in that way, everything fails. But when people focus on the center, that is who is Krishna, that the God, when focus is on the center, then everything else gets nourished. Exactly, yeah. And whatever else they manufacture for the peace and prosperity of the world are all useless and frustrating because of our gross ignorance of the art of loving Krishna. Generally, people think that by advancing the cause of moral principles and religious rites, they will be happy. Others may think that happiness can be achieved by economic development. And yet others think that simply by sense gratification they will be happy. But the real fact is that people can only be happy by loving Krishna. Krishna can perfectly reciprocate one's loving propensities in different relationships called melos or rasas. Basically, there are 12 loving relationships. One can love Krishna as the supreme unknown, as the supreme master, the supreme friend, the supreme child, the supreme lover. These are the 5 basic love rasas. One can also love Krishna indirectly in 7 different relationships, which are apparently different from the 5 primary relationships. So the 5 primary relationships is what Prabhupada mentioned is can love Krishna as a supreme unknown, that is the Shanta rasa. As a supreme master, I think this is Dasya rasa. Supreme friend Sakhya rasa. Supreme child as the Vatsalya rasa. And the supreme lover as the Madhurya rasa. These are the 5 prime principal ones. And there are 7 other ways. 7 different relationships which are apparently different from the 5 primary relationships. All in all, however, if one simply reposes his dormant loving propensity in Krishna, then his life becomes successful. This is not a fiction, but is a fact that can be realized by practical application. One can directly perceive the effects that love for Krishna has on his life. So this is actually the best way to understand, best way to progress spiritually, because many people actually try to speculate processes, like many of the yogis who, if you go, like this Sadhguru, that Ravi Shankar, so many Babas are there everywhere around the world, and they have their system of yogic practice that they themselves actually create, and then they give that to the public, they sell that to the public, saying that this will bring peace to your life, and then you can be more concentrated in your business, you can be more concentrate your mind on your studies and gain more, once you concentrate, you can get better and better standing in the society, like that. So basically, they are all actually supplying to the material progress in the name of spiritual progress. They say, I can help you keep your mind calm. That is spirituality for them. For them, that is the spirituality, to keep the mind calm, and then engage them in meditation, and from that they get concentration, and then from that concentration they become more effective in whatever they do. More effective in business, more effective in studies, more effective in anything they do. So that is their achievement, that is their product basically. Sales that they sell to the people. Basically that's what they are doing. But no one actually teaches love for Krishna. That is the real Vedic principle in the end. That is love for Krishna. And that will satisfy the core of the everyone's being. Not just our mind, not just intelligence, but the soul. Otherwise, everyone is still in the cage. The soul is in the cage. They are just cleaning the cage from the outside, but not feeding the soul inside. Just cleaning the cage, keep it in the cage very nice and clean. But no one is feeding the bird inside, which is dead basically. So that is the thing. But with Krishna consciousness, you actually, instead of cleaning just the cage, you actually feed the bird and make it alive, like that. Free the bird eventually.
But they even meditate on the world. They have diluted it so much.
Yeah.
They go fishing. They said it's something like a meditation.
Yeah, meditation is now
Like
very much diluted.
for every. Lost this whole purpose of meditating towards knowledge of the pretty.
And you are in the yoga process, right? And basically, people just focus on their body. No one considers the yoga as something transcendental or nothing. They just think that it is just asanas, right? So they just do asanas, they get fit, and then they just use their body in all material ways. So that is not complete yogic system. Even if you go to Patanjali yoga system, even there, in the end, what happens is it is just very like they reach the state of Paramatma. The communion of Jiva and Paramatma is the ultimate success in yoga practice. In the Patanjali system, the communion of Jiva with the Paramatma is the ultimate thing. But that is in the trance of your yoga. They actually see the Paramatma. Means the Paramatma, they observe the Paramatma. That is the yogic trance. But beyond that, it doesn't go. But as in our system, in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, it goes beyond Paramatma also. As Sridhar Maharshi actually writes, he says that what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given, is like not just Brahmajyoti. Brahmajyoti is just the effulgence of the supreme abode of Krishna. Just effulgence. And these impersonalist monish, they try very, very difficult. Very lot of difficulty, they try to achieve the Brahmajyoti. Kleshodikataras tesham. It's the only difficulty. They endure all the difficulties to achieve the Brahmajyoti, which is nothing but Krishna's effulgence of Krishna's abode. And these yogis, they do years and years of yoga, asanas and meditation and tapas to just to achieve the glimpse of Paramatma, who is nothing but the part of an expansion of Krishna. Just a part. It's like yasyamshasya kalaha. Amshasya kalaha means it's a part of the expansion of Krishna. Just to achieve him, they go through all the yogic processes, difficult, with lots of difficulties. And then even further than Paramatma, there is Vaikuntha, Narayana, where you can find, that is Vaikuntha is beyond Brahmajyoti, it's spiritual sky. So there the devotees in the mentality of service, they actually worship Narayana. But Narayana himself is an expansion of Krishna. So what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving is directly association of Krishna. Right? But all other processes actually are giving you, are giving the adherents only the expansion or the parts of the expansion or just the halo of Krishna's abode. So, and all those processes are very difficult also, extremely difficult. So, so this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gift is for this Kali Yuga. Yeah.
So you mentioned that Krishna consciousness is the art of loving Krishna.
Yeah.
But like to fully love Krishna, that's a very, very high state, no? Like,
Yes.
So the beginnings of the process, like you cannot say that it's like love for Krishna, like fully,
No.
no? Because
That becomes very mental.
it's
Means,
then like how do you like? Is that something like that transforms like with time? Like at the beginning is not like love, because you cannot say we wouldn't be here, no? Like that was not. But then like what is the first approach? Like is it first is like understanding like more about process, and then like
First is
I guess I'm trying to ask like the beginnings, the first stages of
Yeah.
the practice.
yeah.
Like what? How can you call that? Like it is not like completely love for Krishna yet.
Mm.
So what is? Yeah, what is? How?
It is the process to love Krishna. That is, it's as simple as that. You are in the process. It doesn't mean that you start loving Krishna from the day one. It is not like that. But it is the process of learning how to love Krishna. Right? So what we are all after is divine love for Krishna. So that is very simple to understand. We are after divine love of Krishna. But there is a process. And the process, you can easily say that, but the process to understand how to love Krishna. That is basically Krishna consciousness. Initially, it is just about, it's Ado Shraddha. First, you have the faith in the process. Shraddha. That you have faith, like you have implicit, unflinching faith that what the process will work. That much at least you should accept. Right? Because, and then after that, Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango. Then you get association of the saints. And through the association of the saints, you can understand that the process works actually, tangibly, because you see the saints, you see your guru and saints actually, in some way or the other, you can say that they are very fixed up on Krishna. Very fixed up. They don't deviate from anything. Whatever they do, like in all their activities, they put Krishna in the center very easily. But for us, it's very, very difficult. We have so many other attachments, deep attachments, and we want to become like them, right? If one has associated with Guru Maharaj, you can see Guru Maharaj is so focused on Krishna in whatever he does, in whatever activity, either scripturally mentioned or out of scripture, anywhere, whatever he does, he is not confined by some scriptural injunctions. He is just a free soul, just trying to please Krishna in all his activities. And that is a very, very high stage to achieve. So we want to become like Guru Maharaj. So that is Sadhu Sangha, basically. Right? You express your thoughts to Guru Maharaj, the Sadhu, and Sadhu will express his heart to you. So that is the Sadhu Sangha, means heart-to-heart relation should be there. Like in the form of questions, you put questions to him, sincere questions. You surrender and put sincere questions, and then the Sadhu will guide you from what has helped him. So that is the most part of our life. It is Sadhu Sangha, Anartha Nivritti. So that is most part of the life. Even after we achieve Paramahamsa stage, Sadhu Sangha will not go away. Sadhu should still be there So you will find more thirst for sadhu sangha. In Paramahamsa stage, you'll thirst more for sadhu sangha, because in sadhu sangha only Krishna is revealed for them. So sadhu sangha in the beginning, sadhu sangha in the end. Everywhere sadhu sangha is everywhere in Krishna Lila, everywhere. So initially we are just having lots of attachments and lot of problems following the process. But by determination, utsaha nischaya dhairya tat karma pravana kavatana, right? Rupa Goswami says like utsaham, with every all the time you should maintain enthusiasm, like Vishwarup, full enthusiasm. So whatever happens, you have to maintain that enthusiasm. Then and then with firm determination, you will reach that goal one day.
Maharaj, but like for example, like at the beginning you have so many attachments for many things, and so like it's not like trying to eradicate just attachments per se, no? It's trying to like bring those attachments to Krishna, no? So like to be attached to Krishna. But
certain things cannot be brought to the attachment of Krishna.
But at the beginning, like so when you try to transform those attachments that you have, like to put them in a better
Means dovetailing
it's
process.
better to do it like maybe more attachment for the devotees, like more like or like, because like if you try to say like no attachment, that's like
No, we
very
are not
impossible.
in that process at all.
And it's
Attachment, I'm talking about when attachment becomes a hindrance to one's progress in Krishna consciousness. Attachments become a hindrance. Attachments are the mental attachments which holds you back in the progress of Krishna, and progress in Krishna consciousness. For example, you want to surrender. You are outside in the material world, okay, and you want to surrender, but you have so many other duties, right? Then how will you surrender? You have to take a decision, strong decision, right? So in that way, if you have that courage, then you will take a decision, and join, Krishna consciousness, join Guru Maharaj's mission. And even after that, after giving up all your material life, even after that, the attachments in the heart are there still. Old habits. It is easy to give up money, very easy. Money is nothing. Is it very easy to give up money? Very easy to give up home also, family also. It is easy. It's not difficult. So because of duty, we are holding on to it, because we have some duty to family, and then sometimes circumstances such that we cannot leave. But that is not our attachment, because there is a duty, we are have to do it. But the real attachments are in ourselves. Attachment to Kanaka Kamini Pratishtha. Usually Kanaka means like wealth, but wealth is easy to give. A woman is the next very difficult one, and in the end Pratishtha means desire for fame is the most strong attachment, the strongest attachment. Even without knowing, unconsciously it just creeps into you, without you even knowing that you are doing something which is actually for your own fame or for your own prestige. It's very, very easily you'll get into that trap. It's a very like a very hidden trap, Pratishtha. But this woman attachment or man like attachment between different opposite genders is very, very gross, very, very, very external and gross. But that's also strong. Many times it's also very strong. So all those attachments actually. So although the attachments are always there in initial stages, but by practice, by sadhu sangha, by determination, we get over it eventually. Initially, it is like a 5-headed cobra, and its bite really hurts you. It really poisons you, it hurts you in the initially. But in the end, it becomes like a toothless cobra, no tooth. Even if it tries to bite you, it will not hurt you. So in the end, like when you really cross over anartha nivritti, it just stays as a vestigial organ, means it doesn't perform any function. The attachments are just there, but it does not affect you. Although it tries to bite you, it doesn't affect you. That is the stage after anartha nivritti, when you have already attained nishtha, means firm determination that no one can shake nishtha. And once you get nishtha is also a position from where you can get back, means you can fall back. But once you gain ruchi, that is spontaneous taste. You have the taste, no one can take you away from that object of what you love. Then you are really safe. Once you have reached the stage of ruchi, then you are really safe. No one can shake you after that. But initially, this.
No.
Initially it's there. Attachments are there. Attachments are hindrance to your progress.
I think also in a simple way, attachment should not become over attachment. In most cases, we're all actually overly attached. We have some attachment to some parents, friends, family like that. Okay, we all have something. When that attachment becomes over attachment, like you see many people outside, they're just overly attached to their family. They'll do anything for their family. They'll do anything for their friends, or they'll do anything for themselves. So that's over attachment is what becomes a big problem. Attachment, you can, even that will go in the future as you progress. But yeah, initially we are all bound to some attachment. We are all attached to something because we are still in the process of, following the process. But we have the faith in the process. Though. It's just like Manoj was saying in the thing, we have to trust the process. It's like when you're trying to become a doctor, you know that if you follow that, 4 years, 5 years, if you study, if you follow the process, in the end you will become a doctor. In the end you will be called as a doctor. But to go there, to become a doctor, you have to go to the university, you have to go to all the classes, you have to listen to your professors, you have to write exams, you have to do so many practicals, theory, everything, right? You have to learn all of that. Only then, in the end, after you pass the exams and whatever, then you become a doctor or a lawyer or anything. So Krishna is also like, it's a process. You have to do so many things, like sadhu sangha, you have to chant, you have to associate, you have to do service in the proper service attitude, all these things. And then slowly you cross each stage, many stages. So, but the faith is there. The faith should be there in the process. Like if you're going to the university, you know that you'll have the faith. If you do this, in the end, if you pass the exam, you'll become a doctor. I think. But that faith is there, right? That's important.
Does it answer?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Maharaj, also you mentioned there's also another 7 kinds of relationship.
That is not mentioned in this.
Okay.
Prabhupada mentioned it that there are 7 other kinds. I can think of only one. That is relation in the mode of enmity, like Kamsa had with Krishna. Kamsa actually always thought of Krishna, but in the negative way. Kamsa had always, hated Krishna in his dreams, in his waking state. Every time, all the time, he's just thinking of Krishna. Because as impending death is going to come. Always thinking of Krishna, but in a negative way.
So all those 7...
All the 7 is not mentioned. I just told you one.
Okay.
There's one more way of, one more relation of Krishna. But others, I'm not aware so much.
I think that envy is also there. Maybe the example of Shukala.
Yeah, but
that is very intricate.
envy is not proper.
So all those 7 are like negative.
Not all negative.
No, at all.
In some different ways. Maybe in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu it might have, definitely it has explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Because there the Rupa Goswami is dealt with all rasas. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These are the 5 primary rasas. But there are others as well. I think one more is Madhurya Rasa, there is Parakya Rasa also. Parakya, Madhurya, but there may be different subsections also. I'm not sure.
So
I'm not sure. Yeah.
it's like how you perceive Krishna, how you want to love him, he lets you love you. He lets you love him, how you choose to love. So whichever way you want to approach him, he lets you do that, no? Like,
It's intrinsic to you. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabhu no hai. Means Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema means the Krishna Prema is eternally established within your heart. But through the process, Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Kauraya Udaya means through the process it becomes revealed to you of what you like most. In what way you like Krishna, you like to serve Krishna, in what way. It is revealed eventually in the process. As you go on with the process, it will eventually get revealed to you that which rasa is most tasteful to you and where you fit in the whole, in the scheme of Krishna, where you fit. But it's now, in every jiva, it's in the form of a seed. It's in the form of a seed. But once the plant grows, then you know which plant it is.
So now you have to just water the seed.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Many questions. Sorry.
Yeah. You can ask, no problem. I'm sure can I
ಲೈಕ್ ಯೋಗ ಅಂತ ಅಂದರೆ ಲೈಕ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಯೋಗ
Actual form of yoga.
ಲೈಕ್ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನೋನ್ ಆಸ್ ಯೋಗ ಅಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಯು ಆರ್ ಅಕಾರ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಟು
ಯೋಗ ಅಂದರೆ ಈಗ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಲಿಟರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಡಿಕ್ಷನರಿ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಯೂನಿಯನ್.
ಓಕೆ
ಯೋಗ ಅಂದರೆ ಯುಂಜನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಯೂನಿಯನ್.
ಓಕೆ
Union. So union with the supreme person. Union of yourself with the supreme. In what way? ಹೆಂಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀಯ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗ ಇದೆ, ಜ್ಞಾನ ಯೋಗ ಇದೆ, ಭಕ್ತಿ ಯೋಗ ಇದೆ, ಧ್ಯಾನ ಯೋಗ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸಸ್, ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸಸ್, ಬಟ್ ಆಲ್ ಟಾರ್ಗೆಟೆಡ್ ಟುವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಪರ್ಸನ್, ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಲಾರ್ಡ್. ಹಂಗೆ ಫೈನಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್. Finally, it all culminates into Bhakti Yoga. ಎಲ್ಲದು unites into Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga is also Bhakti Yoga. Gnana Yoga is also Bhakti Yoga. Everything is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga. In the ultimate sense, everything is Bhakti Yoga only. When you use karma, when you use your active actions only for the pleasure of Krishna, what is that? You are doing karma also. But you are only all the results or whatever you are doing, whatever you are trying to do is for Krishna. Automatically that karma yoga is bhakti yoga.
So different process
different.
It's a process.
ಹಾಗೆ ಧ್ಯಾನ ಯೋಗ. ಈಗ ಧ್ಯಾನ ಯೋಗ ಅಂದರೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು ಮೆಡಿಟೇಟ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಮೆಡಿಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀಯ. ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಧ್ಯಾನ ಯೋಗ. ಯು ಆರ್ ಟ್ರೈಂಗ್ ಟು meditate on Krishna. But dhyana is also when you actually meditate on the service of Krishna. Meditate, constant meditation of how you can serve Krishna better. Constant meditation. That's also dhyana. That's also bhakti yoga. Then. So all actually everything culminates into bhakti yoga. But otherwise, they are all just stages in your spiritual progress. ಕರ್ಮ ಬರೀ ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಕೆಲವರು. ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಬರೀ ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗ, ನನ್ನ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ನನಗೇನು ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಏನು ಕಾಮನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ನನ್ನ ಡ್ಯೂಟಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಆ ಥರ ಸುಮಾರು ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಈ ಜಗತ್ತಲ್ಲಿ. ರಾಮಕೃಷ್ಣ ಮಿಷನ್ ಅವರು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಅದೇ ಇದು ಮಾಡೋದು, ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡೋದು ಏನಂದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ಮ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಿ. ನೀವು ಕರ್ಮಯೋಗದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ನೀವು ಕರ್ಮ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ನೀವು ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಗೆಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದ ಕರ್ಮ, ಯು ಡೋಂಟ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್, ಯು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಯುವರ್ ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ. But they also say that above Karma Yoga is Gnana Yoga. They say that Gnana Yoga is higher than Karma Yoga. Because in Gnana Yoga, you actually try to understand the Supreme by your intellectual capacity. That is closer to the Supreme than just Karma Yoga. They say Gnana Yoga is higher. But in Bhakti Yoga, we say that everything ultimately culminates into Bhakti Yoga. We actually want Gnana Karmadi Anavrutam. ಅನುಕೂಲ್ಯನೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣಾನುಶೀಲನಂ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಕರ್ಮಾದಿ ಅನಾವೃತಂ ಅಂದರೆ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಬಿಯಾಂಡ್ ಕರ್ಮ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಡೂ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಅವರ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ. ಅನುಕೂಲ್ಯನೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣಾನುಶೀಲನಂ ಅಂದರೆ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ಫಾರ್ ದ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿನೆಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ. ಅನುಕೂಲ್ಯನೇ ಕೃಷ್ಣಾನುಶೀಲನಂ ಭಕ್ತಿ ಇರುತ್ತದೆ. ಡಸಂಟ್ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಡೂ, ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಯು ಡೂ, ಇಫ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೃಷ್ಣ, ದಟ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ ಭಕ್ತಿ. Independent of bhakti, karma and gnana yoga, karma yoga are all incomplete. Incomplete of bhakti, all incomplete. Yes.
So, like, how do you know you are not dovetailing, like, things in the name of Krishna, saying that, oh, I'm doing this, but maybe
That is sincerity. Your sincerity should tell you. Right? If you are really serious about Krishna consciousness, then you should be sincere with yourself. So if you are sincere with yourself, then you will actually either realize it yourself, or when someone points it out, you immediately correct yourself. So that is sincerity. So if you are trying to dovetail some of your habits or attachments towards Krishna, and then in the name of just enjoying your senses basically sometimes, but you are saying that no, there is also, for example, we eat Pratik Prasadam, that is the best example. You are trying to dovetail your taste for nice foodstuffs. You want to eat foodstuffs, so you offer something very nice to Krishna and then eat it yourself. Right? That is dovetailing your palates, your attachment to the tongue for Krishna's sake. Initially, okay, whatever. Initially it's fine. Many people actually join Krishna consciousness because of prasadam. Right? In the West, Prabhupada used to cook for the devotees because when Prabhupada used to cook and serve, everyone liked Prabhupada's cooking very much, and then that way they became devotees. Initially, it's suggested that you eat till your neck, completely fill your belly and fill your neck completely, so that you don't there is no taste for anything other than prasadam, right? But what you are doing, you are actually initially you are just eating basically. You don't know the real value of prasadam. You are just following Prabhupada. You are just following Prabhupada and just eating. Oh, Prabhupada is giving. Eat. Nice chapati, nice sabji. Just keep on eating. But as you progress in devotional life, then Prabhupada will give you instructions. Don't get attached to what you eat, or don't get attached to the taste of what you eat. Honor it as prasadam. Like one Bhaktisiddhanta also said once. Are you eating rasgulla or rasgulla is eating you? Right? Because that person was eating rasgullas more and more. Are you eating rasgulla or rasgulla is eating you? So actually that will come eventually. How you initially dovetailing is fine, but you should also understand that I'm not trying to satisfy my own palate. I'm trying to honor the prasadam. I'm trying to serve Krishna. So that thought should come into you, and then with sincerity you should try to change that. It eventually will change. Does it answer?
Yeah, thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai.